Look, I hope the court doesn't mind if I just use this.
You can do whatever you wish.
Well, I intend to, before I start addressing the court, I intend to take the lordship through most of my heads because we deem it important that we...
Yes, sorry. And the pen. Oh, your pins.
We present the argument and set out the heads of argument. If we don't get to that today, Lord, I am going to ask your lordship for an indulgence. I would like to also...
okay, tea time tomorrow.
I would like to address your lordship...
I said tea time tomorrow, Mr. Botha.
I'm not sure...
Tea time tomorrow.
I first need to explain to your lordship what the indulgence is that I'm seeking.
Oh, you're seeking some other indulgence?
I would like to have an opportunity also just briefly to comment on the heads of the state's case. We attempted to deal with it in our heads, but the time simply...
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
But will you finish today?
I would hope so.
Okay. I won't interrupt you. That doesn't mean that I'm agreeing with you.
I would like to venture a side bet that your lordship might ask one or two questions, but we'll see about that. Lord, if I can ask the court to go to page 7 of my heads of argument, the state's case. If I may, might be permitted to start there with my address to the court. I agree with my learned colleagues that the case presented against the accused brought no eyewitness accounts, nor did the state proffer any other direct evidence. It's circumstantial evidence. And my learned colleagues and we are in agreement with that. Now, principally, the argument of the state, the entire case of the state hinges on two aspects. It is aimed at supporting two principal interwoven arguments. Namely, the first one, no one else could reasonably possibly have committed the crimes, and two, that the accused version of implicating unknown assailants is not reasonably possible true. That's the gist of the state's case.
Yeah, more than reasonably possible, just inherently improbable. Probably the case is more that it's inherently improbable.
Sorry, I have to do the hearing, Your Lordship.
Let's see. Now the suggestion is that the defense case is inherently improbable.
Yes, yes.
That's the suggestion, yes. Not that it is.
In his version, that there was yes. An unknown assailant responsible. Because my learned colleagues were quite correct. Effectively, what the court needs to decide is the identity of the attacker or attackers. That's what it boils down to. Now,
no, not the identity. The fact that there was a third person.
Yes.
An outsider.
But of course, the accused says it was outside people responsible, and the state says it was him. Now, the argument of the state on page 8 we start effectively rests on the following interrelated contentions. First of all, there was an attempt by the state to create the impression that the Famada home, as well as the estate in which it was situated, were impenetrable. Secondly, there was no evidence that anyone had reached the parameter of the estate and that no one has entered or left the premises of the estate during the period surrounding the attacks. 3, nothing appeared to have been stolen from the premises, nor does there appear to be any significant disturbance of the interior of the premises. 4, there does not appear to have been any apparent motive for anyone to attack the Famada family. 5, a heated argument occurred in the Famada home on the evening of 26 January 2015, which continued unabated for 2 hours from 10 o'clock that evening till 12 o'clock that night. 6, the accused was the only person who had not sustained any serious injuries, and that the nature of his injuries were very different by comparison from those sustained by the remainder of the family. 7, his injuries in any event appeared to have been self-inflicted. 8, the accused description of his own behavior and of the behavior of the alleged assailants during the attacks on the family was so inappropriate and improbable that his version had to be rejected as false. 9, the bloodstains on his shorts and socks indicated him as the attacker of the family. 10, a DNA analysis of blood that was found in the corner of the shower in the boy's bathroom underneath the accused's fingernails and on his shorts consisted of a mixture of genetic material into which could be read the 9 loci DNA profile accused, of his brother Rudy and of his mother Teresa. 11. An analysis of hair found in Muddy's hand showed that the hair belonged to the accused. 12. The accused, in order to gain corroboration for his version of events, manipulated the crime scene and the evidence by hitting the wall above the landing of the steps with a controlled blow with the axe. That obviously in order to create corroboration for his version that he threw the axe to the sailors and was fleeing the scene. By moving Rudy from his bed to the foot of the accused's bed and against the wall, petitioning the boys' bedroom and adjoining bathroom, by placing his duvet next to Rudy on the floor, by placing the knife next to or partially underneath Rudy's bed, and by inflicting injuries on himself. 13. That he lied about having lost consciousness for a period of about 2 hours and 40 minutes after the attacks had occurred and before contacting the emergency services, which time he used to manipulate the evidence in order to create corroboration for his version of events. 14. His version of events related to his motivation for and attempts towards obtaining assistance for him and his family members after the attack is so disingenuous, and that his inappropriate behavior during the call to the emergency service was evidence thereof. 15. His behavior when he encountered the first officer on the scene, Sergeant Kleinans, was suspicious and inappropriate, and that he appeared nervous, panic. Now, if I may interject, my Lord, when determining the guilt or innocence of my client, one can do what, with respect, my learned colleagues did in the heads of argument, and I will show that to the court. One can start to speculate. One can start putting the dog into the garage. One can do that by saying that the accused sat smoking whilst waiting for his sister to die. One can only have regard to some of the evidence. One can disregard completely concessions that were made during cross-examination. And one can draw inferences not because they're the only ones to be drawn, but because they suit your own narrative. You can do all of that with respect, and I suppose then one can convince oneself that the state has made out a strong case. But we submit, if one has regard to all the evidence, if one does not speculate, if one be aware that this is a criminal matter, where the onus is on the state, not on the accused, not at all. And it is one way when one draws inferences, be aware that it must be consistent with the facts, and it must be the only reasonable inference to be drawn. Then we submit, and I will show it in this intensive argument to your Lordship, to the learned assessor, then the conclusion cannot be that the state proved this case beyond reasonable doubt. Now this is the following submission.
There is another method of proving reasonable without reasonable doubt. If all the evidence as a mosaic leads to one conclusion, isn't that the only conclusion to be drawn?
Obviously, if that is the case at the end of the day, but I'm going to attempt to convince your Lordship that the mosaic of the actual evidence, not with respect of my learned colleagues want the evidence to be, and that's why it's so important that you Lordship have regard to those page numbers of the witnesses. The actual evidence points the other way, or at the very least, creates reasonable doubt. And that's what we intend to do. We will submit here under the law, first of all, that the circumstantial evidence presented by the state in its case against the accused does not warrant as the only reasonable inference that the accused was the person who attacked the family. That certain of the evidence presented by the state was of such poor quality that it simply cannot be relied upon. That the accused, with respect, was a very good witness, whose version had remained consistent throughout. If I may interject, my learned colleague was at pains to say, put that to him during his cross-examination. In most instances, the circumstantial evidence presented by the state support the accused, not the state narrative. And in a number of material aspects, the evidence presented by the state does not support, but rather contradicts the state's narrative. And that consequently the accused should be acquitted on all charges against him. Now, with regards to common cause undisputed facts, we thought it prudent to enlighten and set out what we deem what should either be held as be common cause or proven facts. The first paragraph 11.1, my Lord, up into 11.8 deals with the background family. You see, I'm not going to deal with that in detail with respect. I don't think it really is this stage important.
You can take this as read as well.
Yeah. If we can go to paragraph 11.9, this is perhaps more important because it's more pertinent. The accused family was a close-knit family that enjoyed spending time together. They especially joined outdoor activities as a family like shark diving, boating, water skiing and fishing. And up until the time of the incident, more pertinently, the family members had a good and close relationship with one another. There were also no serious disputes between them. In this regard, we only have regard to the evidence of Mr. Andre from Breda who testified to that effect, Mr. Andre de Toy who testified, Ms. Precious Nyumbani who testified, James Henri testified, Bianca van der Westhuizen testified, and of course the accused testified. WhatsApp messages exchanged between Marley and her then boyfriend James Henri on the evening of 26 January 2015, which was handed in court as exhibits, and between the accused and his then girlfriend Bianca van der Westhuizen, which she testified about, until about 10 o'clock that evening. That same evening did not indicate to either James or Bianca that anything was out of the ordinary. Now, with regards to the events of 26 to 27 January, before dinner was the evidence of the accused stance only contested. Martin opened a bottle of wine for the family. The accused also had wine. He, Rudy, and the accused watched television while Teresa made dinner. Molly was in the room doing homework. After dinner, Martin worked for a while at the dining room table. May I again interject? You see the evidence of that in Exhibit A, the photograph showing the books lying open on the dining room table. Teresa was upstairs talking on the phone to her brother who had his birthday on the 26th, and Molly was in the room again after dinner. All of that evidence of the accused, he wasn't even cross-examined. Then the accused said he watched animated movies on his laptop from about 12 o'clock that evening to 4 o'clock. Rudy and the rest of the family were all asleep. Again, that is very clear from the evidence. At about 4 o'clock, the accused went to the toilet, which is part of the suite bathroom of the room he shared with Rudy to move his bath. I'm going to return to this aspect, Lord, and I will ask the patient of the court, because it also is a very important part of what we want to present to the court. And I want to make a reference, well, there's a photograph, of course you have to be graphic, a photograph of the contents of the toilet bowl, but I'll come back to that because it's important. At 4:24, we know the accused attempted to phone Bianca from his mobile phone. At 4:27, the accused conducted an internet search for South African emergency and ambulance numbers on his mobile phone. Then there's a 2-hour, 40-minute lapse, approximately. At 7:12, the accused twice unsuccessfully attempted to phone an emergency number from his mobile phone. At the same time, 7:12, the accused successfully phoned the emergency services from the landline at 12 Fiscal Street. The recording of these conversations with the emergency services was handed in Exhibit J. What he said is before the court must be common cause. During the conversation, he informed the operator that Murray was still alive. He could see her moving. He smoked 3 cigarettes, he said, while he was talking to the emergency service. There's no evidence that he did it while he was waiting for his sister to die with respect. That was his evidence. Whilst he was on the phone to the emergency operator, he tried to call Bianca more than once, again unsuccessfully, from his mobile phone.
That's what I don't understand. He was on the phone, he knew his sister was alive. But
yes.
On his own version, he made nothing to help her.
Look, his evidence was he was on the phone busy talking to emergency services. Your Lordship would remember there was a whole long, almost 20 plus minutes that the operator couldn't work out where he is.
No, that's correct.
Yes.
What I'm saying is this, he never said at any stage that he went up and sought to help his sister.
No, that's true. That's true.
So now how does one reconcile that with ordinary events? I mean,
look, it's
if
one of the
my
aspects
sister was dying by natural causes or otherwise, instinctively go and assist.
Lord, it's one of the aspects that I can assure you, Lordship, I will address with in absolute detail. It's one of the aspects, I promise you, in my head. If your Lordship would disallow me, I will answer that question when I get to that.
I'll wait for that point.
Whilst He then eventually sent Bianca a WhatsApp message. When the first police officers arrived on the scene, he met them at the front door and told them to go upstairs. At that stage, he appeared to be severely traumatized. The police found the bodies of Martin and Rudy in the bedroom shared by Henri and Rudy, the boys' bedroom. Both were dressed in their sleeping clothes. Marley and the body of Teresa were found outside the entrance of the boys' bedroom on the top landing. Both were also dressed in their pajamas. Marley was attended to by the emergency medical personnel and taken to hospital. Her injuries were life-threatening and were clearly inflicted with the intention to kill her. That there can be no doubt. The accused was later taken to an ambulance where his stab wound was addressed. Photographs were taken of his injuries. At some stage, police took his grey sleeping pants and white socks that he was wearing, leaving him dressed only in boxer shorts. His grey sleeping pants and socks contained numerous blood stains, and the sleeping pants also contained a large urine stain on the crotch area. He was led to the police double cab bucky by two police officers who took him to the district surgeon, Dr. Albertson. Dr. Albertson completed a J88 form in which he noted the accused's injuries. At one point, one of the officers asked the doctor if it would be possible to say if his wounds were self-inflicted. The accused cannot recall which of them asked the
I
question.
accept your evidence that he had boxer shorts and white socks. But why was he wearing socks in summer?
I'm sorry.
Why was he wearing socks in summer? Socks, why was he wearing the socks?
I'm not entirely sure why he was wearing socks, but it was the state's case that those are the facts. He
Yes,
wore
we
the
know we
socks.
got that.
Yes.
But the issue is, why was he wearing socks in summer?
I'm trying to understand why Lordship would deem that an important aspect.
No, it's not an important aspect. I'm just trying to figure that out. Into the...
Look, I'm the father of 4 teenagers who used to be teenagers quite often. I, most of the times, can't tell you, Lordship, why they do so. I'm afraid.
I accept that.
You know, the doctor replied in Afrikaans that she sal sien wat ons kan doen. From the doctor's room, the accused was taken to the detective's office where he was made to wait at the community office with officers coming and going dressed in his underpants. The accused was later interviewed by Colonel Bieneke, who requested him to repeat what he had happened a number of times. And at some stage, Colonel Bieneke also said that Murray was telling him everything and asking whether his version would be the same as hers, to which the accused replied yes. He was asked one last time to repeat what had happened, and Colonel Bieneke then instructed a fellow officer to take down his statement. Colonel Bieneke then instructed this officer to have the accused statement typed up and told the accused that he may leave as soon as he has signed it. The accused waited in a tiny office with a computer and printer for the officer to type up what he had written down earlier or what he recalled from memory. Although the gist of what was written down is correct, the statement does contain some discrepancies if compared with his pre-explanation of his evidence, and also does not contain all the detailed information that the accused conveyed interiorly to the court. It also contained a number of grammatical errors. After he signed the statement, the accused was allowed to leave the police station. When he met up with his family, the accused became very emotional and cried a lot. At some stage, he was given a beer by James' father, which he drank. The accused was taken to Valkaleven Medical Clinic where the stab wound to his side was stapled. After he returned, he was given tranquilizer by James' mother. Later that evening, the accused was taken to Valkaleven Medical Clinic again, this time by Sergeant Adams and Colonel Bieneke, where his blood was drawn to determine his blood alcohol level and to test for the presence of drugs. Both these tests were negative. Now, look, if the court would indulge me, I would submit that it is important that one has, again, just very brief regard to the applicable legal principles. And the first matter that I'm referring to, your Lordship would be very well afraid of.
Because we'll argue that matter.
That is the case of the State Business Breda Jaffa, who was charged with hindering, obstructing the police, and Lieutenant Mostert in the mission of his duties. And during the course of that, and during the trial, it was admitted that she grabbed onto Lieutenant Mostert's arms and body as he complained about. But she said that she did it not because she wanted to hinder or obstruct him, but she was concerned that he would shoot her husband, Mr. Johnny Issel. She wanted him to prevent him from that, and the court held in this position. That is still the case law until today. The test is, and I quote, the test
It's
is
a case law, it's correct, it's a judgment of Tebet. In that same period, there were 1 or 2 other cases that put this test somewhat differently. And Krichler referred to it as a minor flurry of cases in the Constitutional Court.
This case,
it's nobody disputed it.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. The test is and remains whether there's a reasonable possibility that the appellant's evidence may be true. In applying that test, one must also remember that the court doesn't have to believe a story, still less has it to believe it in all its details. It is sufficient to think there is a reasonable possibility that this may be substantially true. That's of course a reference to Rex versus M, which I'm sure that was in your Lordship's head's argument on that day when your Lordship argued this point in front of this court. Now the nature and ambit of this onus...
There actually is a court next door.
The nature and ambit of the onus that rests on the state in the criminal matter has been authoritatively stated as follows in the matter of state versus Shackle. It is right principle that the criminal proceeding, the prosecution must prove its case beyond reasonable doubt, and that a mere preponderance of probabilities is not enough. Equally tight is the observation that, in view of the standard of proof in the criminal case, the court doesn't have to be convinced that every detail of the accused version is true. If the accused version is reasonably possibly true in substance, the court must decide the matter on the acceptance of that version. Of course, it is permissible to test the accused version against the inherent probabilities. But it cannot be rejected merely because it's improbable. It can only be rejected on the basis of inherent probabilities that, if it can be said to be so improbable that it cannot reasonably possibly be true. And circumstantial evidence, we all go back to the often quoted case of Rex versus Blom, which refers to the 2 cardinal rules of logic when one deals with circumstantial evidence in criminal matters. Number 1, the inference sought to be drawn must be consistent with all the proven facts. If it's not, the inference simply cannot be drawn. Secondly, the proven facts should be such that they exclude every reasonable inference from them, save the one sought to be drawn. If they do not exclude other reasonable inferences, then there must be a doubt whether the inference sought to be drawn is correct. Now, Lord, it is tried law that the trial court must consider the totality of the evidence, led to determine whether the essential elements of crime have been proved before an inference may be properly drawn. This legal principle was stated as follows by Nugent James, and then was, in the case of State versus Van der Maiden. Quote, the proper test is that the accused is bound to be convicted if the evidence establishes guilt beyond reasonable doubt, and the logical corollary is that he must be acquitted if it is reasonably possible that he might be innocent. The process of reasoning which is appropriate to the application of that test in any particular case will depend on the nature of the evidence which the court has before it. What must be borne in mind, however, is that the conclusion which is reached, whether it be convict or acquit, must account for all the evidence. Some of the evidence might be found to be false, some of it might be found to be unreliable, and some of it might be found to be only possibly false or unreliable, but none of it may simply be ignored. And Lord, an often quoted passage with respect by the prosecution is as a counter-argument to sometimes to the state versus Van der Maiden principle is the matter of state versus Reddy and others. I quote where Zulman AJA then was stated, in assessing circumstantial evidence one needs to be careful not to approach such evidence upon a piecemeal basis and to subject each individual piece of evidence to consideration of whether it excludes the reasonable possibility that the explanation given by the accused is true. The evidence needs to be considered in its totality. It's only then that one can apply the often quoted dictum of Rex versus Blom, where inference is made the 2 cardinal rules of logic which cannot be ignored. And then the judge deals with that, and then it refers to the remarks of Davis, AJA, and Rex versus de Villiers. The court must not take each circumstance separately and give the accused the benefit of any reasonable doubt as to the inference to be drawn from each one so taken. It must carefully weigh the cumulative effect of all of them together. It's only after it has done so that the accused is doubted the benefit of any reasonable doubt which he may have as to whether the inference of guilt is the only inference which can reasonably be drawn. To put the matter in another way, the crown must satisfy the court, not that each separate fact is inconsistent with the innocence of the accused, but the evidence as a whole is beyond reasonable doubt inconsistent with such innocence. We would employ Lordship and learned assessors to do precisely that in this matter. Now, The ready matter, I'm not going to deal with the facts, my Lord, if I can just perhaps summarize and ask your Lordship to turn the page and go to page 21. The evidence against with respect to the accused in the ready matter was so overwhelming that it was hardly surprising that the court found or rejected their version as mere speculation and objected that they were not aware of the mandate that was hid in false compartments. And I think, if I remember correctly, 8 of the crates that was imported, of 25 crates that were imported into the country, and which they just so happened to take those 8 crates to the farm of one of the accused, and they were found in possession of the mandates and the crates. Now, under those circumstances, their suggestion that it might have been placed there by somebody else, some unknown people, was so far-fetched with respect that, of course, it was rejected. But if one does a simple investigation about and have regard to the cases where the ready principle was applied, one finds the following. Either there's a case where the accused failed to testify despite the presence of strong circumstantial evidence, or it's a matter where the accused's evidence was rejected as false for very sound reasons with respect, or where the inference called for by the accused was so completely fanciful and rested on pure conjecture, or not a single instance in the evidence supported the conclusion that the accused's version on the material aspect is true. Now, what is also important, my Lord, is the following point that we make in our heads, and that is the proven facts referred to in Rex was long are facts proven or accepted as true beyond reasonable doubt. Inferences, so to intermediate inferences, may not be drawn from other inferences. Inference must be drawn from facts. And then a very important aspect, again, my Lord, I will submit, is the principle that appears from the matter of status of Scott Crossley, the SC decision, page 23.
Yes, status Crossley.
Sorry, my Lord.
Where are you referring to that?
The top of page 23, paragraph 24.
That's the case with the lion, wasn't it?
That's correct.
Yes.
Now the principle there was very important, the following principle. Furthermore, the fact that the version of an accused coincides with that of a state witness on a particular point does not provide corroboration for the latter's evidence. We've already referred to what was said in State vs. Gentle in paragraph 8 above. Matters which are common cause between the state and the accused cannot provide corroboration for matters in dispute. Otherwise, for example, the fact that an accused in a rape case confirmed that he had sexual intercourse with the complainant could, of course, be taken as corroboration of the latter's version that he had done so without consent, which is plainly absurd. I'm not going to...
Crossley is a much disputed decision.
Yeah, but,
especially in South Africa.
I'm not referring to the facts, but this principle,
yes, just putting
of course,
it to
is very, very
Crossley gives rise to concern.
But again, the principle and the full bench of the SCA said that is the way to look at it. And that's the only point
may have been the SCA, but it's still open to debate.
I hear what your Lordship is saying.
You know the facts.
I know the facts. Yeah. Well, I know those actually horrible facts.
Yeah, that's right.
What constitutes corroboration was set out in the matter of State vs. Gentle. I'm not going to read that into the record. It's also the spectral law. And then, my Lord, one or two further aspects on top of page 24. It has often been stated by courts that direct, credible evidence of an occurrence carries far more weight than the opinion of an expert, however experienced that expert may be. And that principle also finds application in the criminal law. We refer to the court to the case law in support of that. And when the court assesses conflicting expert opinions, the weight of such expert opinion will depend, of course, on the extent to which the opinions are found on logical and cogent reasoning. However, in assessing expert scientific evidence, a distinction has to be drawn between the scientific and judicial measure of proof. Whereas scientific proof requires ascertainment with scientific certainty, judicial measure of proof requires the assessment of probabilities. Now, in this instance, with respect,
but scientific certainty is not simply a word.
No.
It's a concept.
It's a concept. It must be
a concept that there must be. It must meet with all the tenets of the professional witnesses field of expertise.
With respect, no doubt your Lordship is correct. It's a concept and it's based on evidence presented to the court. But with respect, where I need to cross swords with my learned colleague, with respect, I would submit you conflated the two aspects. What that decision said, we both refer to it, that's the Matumela decision, Matumela was the state. What the Supreme Court of Appeal simply said there is that, of course, scientific evidence presented by scientists, they have a certain measure of proof before they make certain statements that they adhere to. But of course, when the court at the end of the day looks at the versions of the 2 or 3 conflicting experts, the court will then use the judicial manner or measure of proof in assessing it on the probabilities. That's that decision. We also submit this in important.
Yes, but in that case, the court found that the quote unquote did not take into account the evidence of an expert.
Yes.
Which raised doubts about the scientific certainty of the conclusion.
Of the reason, the cause of death.
Yeah, cause of death.
Absolutely.
Which was the only issue
yes,
on which the judgment was reversed.
Absolutely. And if I remember correctly, that the trial judge there held that the defense expert could not say with absolute certainty that the deceased died of natural causes. And the Supreme Court rules against that test. It must only be a probable version because it's the state. It's a respect the right principle as well. Now,
yes, but it doesn't mean that each time you mount scientific certainty, you're being scientifically certain.
Well, one would hope
you must constitute an analysis on a scientific basis.
Yes. Well, one would hope that the scientist who presents his or her evidence to the court will be sure of his or her scientific basis for presenting those facts.
Yeah.
Now, my Lord, the following aspect we will submit is very important. I will get back to this aspect when I deal, and I intend to do so extensively with the evidence, the DNA evidence. But where the state's proof of the accused's guilt depends on the result of scientific analysis, the testing process, including the control measures applied, has to be executed in accordance with such care that any time later it could be verified by any objective scientist and a fortiori eventually also trial court. I'm referring to Lordship decision in this regard of the TPD, another one for the Orange Free State Provincial Division, another one with the Witwatersrand as was then called, State versus Piri, also Transvaal, State versus Ori, and I can actually add onto this, State versus SB, and the reference for that matter, Your Lordship, the assessor will find in my footnote on the previous page, footnote number 19, where the Supreme Court of Appeal reaffirmed this, and incidentally and interestingly enough, this is the matter where Colonel Otto also testified, State versus SB. And I invite and implore Your Lordship and the assessor to have regard to that judgment as well. In which I can add, by the way, that the Supreme Court of Appeal referred the evidence of the other expert above that of Colonel Otto in that matter, and for the reasons set out there. Now the first aspect, Lord, that one needs to have regard to is the evidence about the security at the estate and 12 horses. Obviously this is an important aspect of the state's case. In essence, what they intended to prove and say, Your Lordship, look, this estate is so secure, and the 12 horse street itself is so impenetrable that it's simply not possible for somebody to have come. Of course, those were the facts. If those were the facts, then the accused would have had a problem. No doubt about that.
No, but the security point is not that. It's not that it's impenetrable. The argument is that it's so secure that for the events to occur as suggested, a third party coming in is most unlikely. Nobody suggests that this 12 Gosker Street or the Zalza is impenetrable. That's not the point. The point is, if somebody did come in and was not, firstly, they required a high degree of planning and sophistication. it would require a great deal of knowledge of the inside of the premises to come in and go out without being noticed, and with the necessary intent to go to the Van Breda home. Now, the argument is not that nobody could have, I mean, I could jump over that fence if I was a bit more. Oh,
I'm not going to...
no, I can't, but a person with a, could break into it. It's possible, but it will require the sort of expertise that the Ocean's 11 displays into breaking into banks. Because you must study the place, find out how you're going to break in there, the timing must be correct, the alarms mustn't go off, they must know where the security is, what time the security goes around the field, and that sort of detail. So I'm only putting to you that nobody suggests, I don't think Ms. Galloway is intended to suggest that the place is like Fort Knox, impenetrable. The issue is here of what likelihood is there of somebody going in and going out.
I'm very pleased that I wholeheartedly agree with about 20% of the Lordship said. That's the important aspect, that it is not impenetrable. With respect, but what has to have regard to the following. This is where the state started out with.
Now, what's your point about the? I mean, you deal a great deal of detail as to it's possible to break in into the place. We can't exclude that possibility. But then it's not fortuitous, it's planned. It must have been planned.
I am going to, there's an entire chapter that will deal with the probabilities or improbability of the presence of unknown assailants, which I'll deal with this.
But I just want to get you, get your point on
I will get it.
You agree with me that it's not the state's case that's impenetrable?
Well, that's the way I understood the case, especially with regard to this, Sergeant Kleiners Evans, before we went for the inspection logo, where he said it was impossible to get into the earth.
Yeah, impossible is...
and then I showed with respect, quite graphically, that my instructing attorney could do it on the other side. And if I remember it was so fast the first time that the Lordship had to ask her to show it again. But be that as it may, Lord, again, it is important to respect that we deal with this extensively because it's an important aspect of this.
No, I agree with you that you should deal with it. But,
the first bit of my
but you mustn't overstate the position and tell me that because it can be broken into, that happened, because the easiest way to break in there, if I use my youth as an example,
if
I can tell you how to break
impossible, then of course I can't even get out of the starting blocks. So I need to also show that I want to attempt to show your Lordship, convince your Lordship, and then assess that it is quite easily, in fact, and that there was on the evidence before your Lordship, in fact, facts on the probabilities presented by the defence that there was a breach of the parameter fence. Now the first few paragraphs, 32 to 41, my Lord, I will not ask your Lordship to go through that. I'm not going to repeat that. It's simply, it sets out what the surrounding area looks like and what the estate itself looks like. We can have it regard to that. In general, it's a golf estate. It has trees, it has pieces of felt, golf courses, rivers, dams, etc. etc. Now, the argument, Lord, in paragraph 42, if I can start there, the suggestion of the respect that was part of the state's case initially, that the targeting of the Van Breda residents by perpetrators is unfathomable, illogical, or very strange. The respect that is contrived. Perpetrators who planning and personal motives are unknown, regularly plunder attackers. We read about that every day in the newspapers. And again, I'm not going to deal with that in too much detail. I have an entire chapter, we have an entire chapter dealing about the motive issues. Because I mean, we understand and we realize we need to address that in detail. Now, if with regard to Mr. Edgar Weingaard, one of the security officers who testified, during cross-examination, he confirmed that the locations of those houses...
Is the word correct there, contrived? You suggest that the state's case with regard to penetration is contrived.
Sorry, what?
You use the word contrived. contrive has a specific meaning.
I with respect, I use the word advisory. Have regard to the summary of facts that the state presented when they started out this case. That's exactly what they said, what they're going to do, Your Lordship.
Contrive has a, I'll tell you what the Oxford Dictionary says of contrive. Artificial, strained, a contrived story. You suggest that it's the suggestion that the state's case is artificial or strained.
I'm saying this point.
Yeah, but if contrived would mean artificial or strained. Do you mean that that the state woke up one morning and they got this murders and said, look here, I mean, they couldn't have broken into this place and therefore the murder took place, not as suggested.
Look, the only point we're trying to make here is that is what the state said they're going to do. That was the case that we came prepared to meet.
But isn't that what they did? Isn't that what they did? They took us to the scene. They showed us the perimeter fencing. We know it's electric. We know there's cameras. We know there's a river. We know there are security guards at the gate. We had evidence of them going around the circumference of the place from time to time. We had evidence of what the control room is all about. It's in the light of contemporary South Africa, it's most desirable to live in a secure state as that. I think that's all they really wanted to show.
I agree with Lordship was what the evidence eventually showed, and then some, which I will point out to your Lordship in our heads of argument. All I'm saying here is, this case started from the premise, from this point, that what we have here is almost a Fort Knox. That is what they set out. And the first witness who testified, Sergeant Kleinhouse, your Lordship will also recall, he said, for example, about the estate itself. He said, my Lord, when I arrived there with my marked police vehicle, in my uniform, blue lights flashing, stopping it at the main gate. This estate is so secure. They told me to go back, reverse, go back, go down to the other gate. You will have to go sign in, no matter what the circumstances are. What happened when we saw the video? That was a blatant lie from Sergeant. He never even attended at the main. He directly went to the other. And he was let out within seconds. So, what the state started out with was to convince your Lordship and the assessor that what we have here, you can't get through here. What the evidence showed is an entirely different matter, and that's what I want to now come to. I'm not taking that point any further. I'm not suggesting that the state attempted to present evidence by that. In fact, the contrary is the case.
No, that's not how I understood the state's case. There may have been that impression from the indictment and summary of facts. But as the evidence was laid, it was clear that they did not attempt to prove, nor did they prove that it's Fort Knox. But Fort Knox is, just the example, that you have to break in, it takes a lot of effort. But the mere fact that this is a fence, you can enter it in some way or the other, but not without some planning and expertise.
Well, I intend to show your Lordship that it was in fact quite easier than that, and in fact that there is evidence that
the person fortuitously were able to...
Well, I'm going to present you that there was evidence placed before this court that only one inference can be drawn from, based on the expert evidence that we presented, that there was in fact two breaches that of the perimeter defense. Now the state's camera surveillance system, it's no good for my learned colleague to say to your Lordship as he did in the heads. There were cameras. We know what the facts are. The facts are that only 35% of the 7.5 kilometer perimeter fence at the time had cameras. It's a camera surveillance. Not to say that cameras, only 35% had cameras.
But assuming 35% had cameras, That means the person who penetrated that place must have known where the 35% is.
But one can look at them, stand and
Yes, that means, but that means you study that in the middle of the night to find out where are the cameras, and you break in where there are no cameras.
But look, I've also...
All I'm saying is that it takes expertise and study to know where the cameras are, to know where the weaknesses in the structure
are.
are.
That's why we spend quite a bit of time on this, because we know this is an important aspect.
Sorry, I don't want to hold you up. You have a day to argue.
I don't want to say, Your Worship, that I did predict this, but no, I'm sorry. But look, Your Lordship would no doubt recall the evidence. We put it to witness the previous crime statistics of this place. I've asked witnesses. Those people who broke in the past, who stole from car, where did they come from? How did they get gained?
Yeah, and they also the evidence was they were largely internal events. I mean, staff that were employed.
Respect all that, with the greatest respect, that was not the evidence was, in fact, less than 20% of the crime ever solved, in the sense that there was a perpetrator identified. Less than 20%. Less than 20% was ever solved. Those are the facts.
No, ever solved, yeah.
Ever solved, yes. In the sense that they identified the perpetrator.
These are rich people. Any incident like this, they report for insurance purposes.
In fact, the evidence on that as well is also against the statement, because the evidence was by Wayne and also by Marshall Rousseau, is that at most of the times they don't even bother to. So these crime stats that they have, if anything, is very conservative. So if I can continue page 30 of my heads, my Lord. Very importantly as well, that the interior of the estate, there were no cameras at all. Now, prior to the incident, and before the additional cameras, which are now covered the entire parameter, were installed, one would also recall it was handed in as exhibit CC, Thorburn Security Report, that recommended that additional cameras should be equipped to be installed. Now, we did get certain video footage from the state, and it was provided to us, and some of this we showed to the Lordship, and the assessing book referred to that. And Malone also part of their argument was, but there's the video footage. Saw it, nothing. With respect. What was provided? Only some of the video footage of certain parts of the 35% that they were cameras at.
If I remember correctly, that video footage showed a shadow appearing, a person quite obviously, appearing approaching the fence and then disappearing. Not actually coming.
That was historical.
And also the animal, we saw the animals around.
This time, but of course it was
yes, historically that shows that. So they're pretty sensitive. The cameras were pretty sensitive.
Well, and there was only one of those cameras at the time that was capable of doing that. Only one. And that's the problem. And you also would recall that what they picked up, and was testified to by our expert, that one of the persons,
you see,
the unknown, was carrying a bunker.
You're looking at it piecemeal. That means that the intruder would have known that the cameras are not working, because he wouldn't want to be seen on the cameras. So how come the intruder must have known that the cameras are not working?
No, but I'm not suggesting the cameras are not working. All I'm saying, the thermal camera, there was only the one thermal camera at the time, covering one certain stretch of the fence. The majority, 65% of the fence, didn't have any cameras, let alone the thermal camera. And that was the problem.
But that means the intruder came in an area where there was no thermal camera.
Your Lordship would refer out that evening.
Yeah.
The evening, possibly.
So how would they have known? How would they have known that that area is not covered by any camera?
Look, he has a 65% chance if he does it at random. That's more than merely probable. It's highly probable or possible. It's highly probable that he was in the right, even at random.
So in a
But I will
matter of
show you
randomness, you say the intruder was not picked up on the camera, not picked up at all. Is that I must sentence A&A for contempt? Sorry, I didn't mean that, Miss.
The issue is, and again, I'll get to that. It was not only that there was actual evidence of actual alarms that evening. And I will get to
Okay, get to that. Thanks. I promise not to interfere.
Cameras, yes, they're cameras, but have regard to what we're saying ahead. Those are the facts. I invite your lordship and the learners to have regarding into the evidence. That was the real aspect. The video evidence that was provided to us clearly must be considered against the rest of the following background. The provided footage covered only a limited area of the state parameter. The Craddock footage was deleted, couldn't find it. The able thermal camera footage regularly jumped. Your lordship would no doubt recall that even that thermal camera, even the thermal camera did not record continuously. It jumped and it skipped certain periods of time. Extensive periods of time. That specific evening. The limited surveillance coverage provided by the cameras at the time was already identified by the report as a possible vulnerability in the security system. Access control at the estate gates. Now, the first bit is just Mr. Maincard who testified and said how they control the access by domestic workers and builders on the site. But now Mr. Maincard that evening said he was in control of the guards, including those stationed at the gates, who were responsible for checking out visitors. Now, then we had to look at the footage of one of the gates. So all that was available, just one. And Marsha Rousseau that evening indicated that she was compelled to concede this. She could not explain how various vehicles that evening went in and out without being checked. She said,
but there's an affidavit that explains
it. Sorry, what?
There's an affidavit that explains each of the vehicles.
Yes, but with respect, I'll get to that. That does not cover, not even remotely, all the vehicles that evening. It covers 3.
So you say it's a reasonable possibility that the intruder entered the premises in the vehicle and got out?
What we are saying, Lord, is you want to have regard even to access through the gates.
No, that's not theoretical.
It is.
Is it
no, it's not theoretical.
Are you postulating that the intruder could have come in a car and got out of the car?
It is a reasonable possibility based on evidence before you put yes. Absolutely.
Isn't that the most remote possibility?
I'm sorry, Lord.
Isn't that the most remote possibility in all the evidence?
Lord, we have the evidence of one camera at one gate, and then we see it on that specific evening. And on that basis, it must be a reasonable possibility, not a remote possibility, with respect. Then, and more importantly, if I can go to page 33 of my hands, we're not suggesting that known persons entered the estate in this manner, or that they were the assailants, but the people we saw them, nor with respect, and that's the important aspect. Does the accused bear the onus of proving that? It is for the state to exclude this possibility. We submit
yes,
it
but
on the evidence.
is the I know the general law. I mean, as you know, I appeared in state versus Japan. But must the state, in its evidence, exclude every possibility, however remote?
This is not the case. I'm now attempting to convince your lordship of this. What is our case? What is my client's case have been from that morning? He said, to be unknown people here. 2 years later, he's charged. And the case goes to court. 2 years. And this is the evidence that's presented to you to the court. And all we're saying is that he nailed his colours to the mast then already. Unknown assailants. It's not a remote, fanciful, speculative aspect. That's the gist of his defense. And that's what the state had to meet. They had to meet this and present evidence to Lordship that it is so improbable that somebody could have come in, that even on that, his version must fail. So I'm building up to the point where I'm going to present to your Lordship evidence that there was, in fact, an intrusion that day on the evidence, properly split. Would it be a convenient time?
Yes, sorry, we could adjourn for 15 minutes.